We thought there was a space to talk about sport that wasn't being covered, and it was really about scores and statistics. And
There's a place for that, absolutely, but it's not the way that we necessarily connect with sport.
so that's where it really started. We were like, should we start a podcast?
So that message that you were trying to put out there, is that the community that you think you've created that you're now nurturing?
There were people out there who were looking for this sort of conversation. We really make sure that in every episode we're bringing in an element of community sport.
Who's in charge of what? On air, off air? What does Libby bring?
So, Georgie, I said that I wouldn't have kept you if you weren't any good. Why on earth do you keep me?
Libby just drops this sprinkle of magic into everything we do and takes it in a direction that I might not have anticipated. And I think it's like a yin and yang. You have to have a contrast for it to be interesting.
Our podcast is our business card. Podcasting isn't necessarily super lucrative, but as you're probably sort of alluding to, we're trying to create a business around the podcast.
Can you tell us a little bit about your show and sort of why you decided to start it?
We are...
We love a bit of sport here at Clearshot, so we were pumped when Libby Trickett, three-time Olympian, and Georgie Trickett, self-confessed average athlete, came to us to record their sport and pop culture podcast, Sportish. They'd been slogging it out producing their podcast from home, but wanted to take the next step to the studio format. They're both such good fun to have in the studio, so we roped them into coming and having a chat to us about what they've learnt about podcasting so far.
So, can I start by just saying how much I really like working with you guys?
Same.
It's so fun.
It's so
Absolutely
fun.
a highlight for us.
I like what you guys are talking about. I like how it's topical, but I really like the vibe you guys bring.
Yay.
Thank you.
It's really, really nice.
Thank you.
That means a lot because I think in this industry you don't necessarily get a lot of feedback, let alone positive feedback. So we appreciate you.
No, and that's my other little note here is that I really also feel like you appreciate our skill set.
Oh, 100%.
Massively.
So thank you for that feeling that you give us.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think like the thing for Georgie and I, like we know that we have some skills, but we don't have many other skills. So we always want to work with people who like know what they're talking about and who are great at what they do. Like that for us is like the most important thing. And I think the joy that we get from working with you and coming to this space is that all of that's taken care of, and we just know that we can trust you to execute on those elements that we just have no idea about.
And we have also done it ourselves and learnt through that experience just how hard it is to do and how many things can go wrong. And it was great, and it is great when we need to be able to record at home, but to be able to come into a studio where we have people who understand audio really well, who understand video really well, who can get the lighting right. Those sort of things make such a difference to the quality of the product we create, and it helps us to continue to take it up to the next level.
Yeah, we love taking it to the next level.
So this podcast exists for people who are thinking about starting a show or might already have one. Can you tell us a little bit about your show and sort of why you decided to start it?
Yeah.
We are sisters-in-law. We got thrown together by chance and
By marriage.
by marriage. We married into the same family, and I guess we've got to know I guess we've got to know each other over the last 20 years or so. But the way that we really connect is through sport. And I don't know that we actually really ever articulated that.
No, not for a long time.
For a long time. Like I was a massive Libby Trickett fan when I came into the family, and I used to come out and watch you do random like swimming things out at Sydney Olympic Park and, you know, cheer you on from afar. But it wasn't until we had kids and we sort of started to have the opportunity to exercise together and live in the same place where we could that I think we realised that we had this deep appreciation for sport. And that to me is really interesting because Libby is quite clearly an Olympian and I am quite clearly not.
She's come from that community level sport. We thought there was a space to talk about sport that wasn't being covered. And it was really about the way that we like to engage in sport, whether it's, you know, the thing we always joke about is the state of men's hair in in rugby league, you know, like what is with all of those mullets that are everywhere? And we just never really saw that. It was always about
the scores
and statistics and
the
like
draft.
And it's also dry and analytical. And like we enjoy that. We enjoy research.
There's a place for that, absolutely. But it's not the way that we necessarily connect with sport.
We love the human side. We love the storytelling. We love all of those sorts of things. So that's where it really started. We were like, should we start a podcast?
It was
Probably.
And we looked at each other and thought, wow, sure, we could do that. And so from there, after the first iteration was born, and it was definitely born in Libby's study at her house. And we had a producer that Libby had worked with in radio who came and helped us and definitely actively produced me. I think for me, having not been on mics before, I didn't really know, I didn't have the confidence, I guess, to talk. So Libby and Jace really helped me to understand that being myself and being on my authentic self and allowing for the mistakes to come through is actually where some of the magic happens. And as a very type A perfectionist, that's been a
learning curve.
A really big learning curve for me, but one I'm so glad I went on.
Yeah, no. And I always, because Georgie was really worried that she wasn't, I don't want to say wasn't good, but I do think that was your mentality.
100%.
Like, I don't think I can do this.
Absolutely.
And I kept having to tell her, like, dude, if I didn't think you were actually really good, I wouldn't be here. Not to be a bitch about it, but like, if I didn't think you had something in you,
we would have cut this
a long time ago. And it's been really cool because it really has been a journey. And, you know, it takes, I think people probably think that podcasts just like are really popular. And it's not that simple. I think it's finding the right topic for you to talk about. I think it's finding the right people to work with. And I think it's also timing as well in the more global societal sense.
So that message that you were trying to put out there, that you envisioned it being, is that the community that you think you've created that you're now nurturing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think as we started, we came to understand more that there were people out there who were looking for this sort of conversation. And I think we really make sure that in every episode we're bringing in an element of community sport, but also talking about the things that are very much in the culture and crossing over into the culture out of sport, because sport can tend to sit in this silo, you know, over to the side, where in reality, and I think we've seen it through things like Drive to Survive, there are so many conversations in sport that can come out into the culture and are so interesting to a broader base than your traditional sports fans. And that's actually the area that we've really leaned into strongly. And also through this community sport area, understood that the issues that exist around kids sport and teenage sport are so relevant and resonate so much with our audience.
And I think that's what's kind of quite cool and interesting about a medium like podcasting is it really does kind of grow around what our experiences are. And I think it's evolved and shifted with us as parents in the stages that we're moving through as well, as our kids have gotten older and are more exposed to youth sports. And we start to see, I guess, a more, or we have more clarity over what the issues are there. And that kind of drives a passion for us. And I think for Georgie and I, we are so passionate about sport in general. We want everyone moving their body in whatever way. We want everyone connecting with sport in whatever way works for them. And, you know, Georgie is like a tried and true supporter of most sports. And it's really beautiful to see her and her family go and watch all different types. Me, I'm a bandwagon jumper. Like, anything that starts to go good, I'm on board. Like, but I will not watch season round. And I think that's okay. It doesn't matter which way you engage with sport. But that commonality and that joy that we both get from those moments and from those stories is really fun and interesting to explore. And I think it's been really interesting to see us grow and evolve in
Yeah.
that space as well.
I've certainly enjoyed it.
yes.
Lovely that it's evolved and grown. I think that's wonderful that you guys are able to see that happen as well.
for sure.
Can you help me understand a bit of your dynamic? So, who's in charge of what? On air, off air? How does it work for you guys?
Georgie's in
I was
charge.
going to say, Nick, who do you think's in charge?
I think I know the answer.
We both very clearly know who's
No,
in charge.
I don't think that's fair.
But
I
also,
think
what does Libby bring?
So, Georgie, I said that I wouldn't have kept you if you weren't any good. Why on earth do you keep me?
absolutely not. I think I would recommend anyone work with an Olympian. I think it's an incredibly interesting experience. I've never worked with in the best
Interesting
way.
experience.
No, in the best way. I've never worked with an athlete who's performed up to that level, and what that means in a more work setting is someone who's just like, let's just do it. Let's and without any sort of fear or concern about where this might go, and that's a complete shift for me in terms of my working style, but it's been awesome. So I would definitely say that I bring in the organisational capabilities.
1,000,000%.
And also I come from a background that is very health and business based, and I'm used to looking at research and pulling that together. And so that's absolutely how I shape our conversations. But Libby just drops this sprinkle of magic into everything we do and takes it in a direction that I might not have anticipated. And I think it's like a yin and yang. You have to have a contrast for it to be interesting. And we don't necessarily agree on lots of things.
Yeah.
And again, that's what you want in a conversation. I do feel like sometimes if we're going down a path of agreeing too much, in both of our heads, there's like a little alarm going off thinking, well,
That's
hang on,
boring.
is this interesting for anyone to listen to? So that's, I guess, something we're really conscious of.
Yeah, and I think for anyone who is thinking of hosting with someone else, I think you do need to have that difference of background often. I think that's what makes us really unique and interesting. Just saying.
Personally speaking.
Just personally speaking, I think we're really interesting and lovely.
I think you're both very interesting.
Oh, thank you, Nick. I appreciate you. Once again, we'll pay you off camera. No, but I just think, obviously Georgie's come from a different sporting background. We both come from sporting backgrounds. We both have that commonality of love of sport and enjoyment and interest in it. We have very different experiences through that. And personality-wise, we work really well together because she does create that incredible structure that allows me to drop in when I need to or when I want to. Who knows? But I'm able to, because I have that structure in place, I'm able to be much more present with the conversations that we're having. And that allows me to kind of do the things that I think I'm good at. And that's really nice and feels very safe for me to be able to do that. And she doesn't judge me for not bringing the expertise in terms of
but I think
research and data.
I think it would undersell it. Libby has this ability. I can hand her a script and say, we're talking to this person and this is what it's about. And Libby can lock in and engage with that person like she's done 4 days of research. I wish I had that skill. It would be so much more efficient if I had that skill. Whereas I know that I need to sit and be in the information and be writing it and understand it for me to actually communicate it the way I want to. And I think it's understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we both have both of them, that helps us work really well. And we will have really hard conversations, behind the scenes as well. There's been times when we've seriously questioned what the hell we are doing. Yeah,
constantly.
And whether we should still be doing it. And so Libby has this unbelievable ability to just be right up in your face and having a conversation that you don't actually want to be having. And that's been really good for me to learn.
In a good way.
No, I couldn't be more complimentary.
Yeah. Okay, good. Tell me I'm good.
Tell me. So you guys have done a lot of recording at home.
Yes.
What has that process been like, figuring it out, and what have you learned along the way?
that we would much prefer to record in a
Oh
studio.
my God, it's awful.
No, we
It's not necessarily an option for people.
100% it's not. No, and we started out. We've tried lots of different programs. We've tried lots of different recording
Setups,
settings.
yep.
I think with the evolution of video now being so important and so important to help promote your podcast through social media channels, particularly, we at some point were like, we have to use Riverside. That's what we'll use. We tried so hard to do it in the same room because we like that dynamic, but we just
prefer
found
that dynamic, yeah.
we would be phoning a friend all the time to say, why can we hear ourselves echoing?
The friend often was you, Nick.
It was often you, Nick.
I remember
Almost
those ones,
exclusively you.
And so we would then record in different locations. And look, there's lots of benefits there as well. It means you can be really timely. You can do it at a time of day that works for you.
So during that period of time, I had just had 2 different babies that we were kind of navigating. So for me,
I remember the nursing episodes.
yeah. Like for me, in terms of accessibility, amazing, incredible. It allowed us to continue our podcast and continue pushing it out there and being consistent with content and all of those sorts of things in a way that was available to me. And that was wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, just taking, like, it gives you the opportunity to just keep refining and keep doing the work. And I think one of the things that I keep in my mind all the time, it's doing the doing as opposed to the end outcome.
Correct.
So it's actually getting in there, and some weeks you might be like, this sounds terrible, but you put it out anyway.
Yeah.
And some weeks it sounds great, but it's the practice and it's the
Time on mic.
yeah, you just need it.
Totally. And I think that's the thing, like, you're not going to be, it's that old saying, you know, you can't, what is it? You got to start to be great, right? You got to do the thing to actually get to the point that you don't start being great. Like
Your first episode's not going to be your best.
No,
episode.
it's
Absolutely
often
not. I
our
would
worst.
hate to go back and listen to mine.
No, we would never listen.
Shouldn't
No.
treat yourselves.
We should just bury that deep somewhere.
Deep in
down.
a hole somewhere.
But I think it's nice as well for listeners to be on that journey with you. And sure, as you change, you might lose some people through the process, but I also think you really start to refine who you're talking to, and they're with you on that journey. And, you know, I often think about the fact that I'm not saying we're there at all, but like I think about what I often wonder what someone like Hamish and Andy must have sounded like when they first started out, and then where they got to. And it was just clearly capable, skilled, clever people, but also they've done it
Practice.
So much.
Correct.
And the benefit of that, I don't think you can underestimate that. You've just got to get behind the mic and have a go and have another go and keep going at it and be a bit forgiving of yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point and something that you can speak to really well, because I had been in media basically since I was 18 in some form with swimming, right? So I had a lot of time answering questions, asking questions, doing all those things. But for someone like Georgie, who's had to step in and be completely out of her comfort zone.
So much.
Like, how do people move past that feeling that, like, who wants to listen to me?
I think I kept in my mind that concept that I think someone like Adam Grant talks about so well. Whereas if you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning. And if you want to evolve yourself from being just like this person to something bigger and doing something more, then you have to be uncomfortable. And it won't look like a straight line. It's going to be up and down and a bit of a mess. And often you're your worst critic, your own worst critic.
We talk about our arsehole brains.
Yeah. And I think having someone in your corner who will tell you that actually it's not that bad. And yes, it's definitely publish that episode, and finding your people that can support you through that.
And being good enough.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, just, you know, as another saying, you know, perfect is the enemy of the good. Like, get it out there. Like, just try. And we always talk about collecting data as well. Like, seeing what works, seeing what is interesting, seeing what we get responses to.
I think you're really good at that. If something doesn't work, I would sit there going, oh my gosh, we failed. And Libby's like, this is an excellent data point. And that's been a really good
mindset shift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The show sounds like it's coming on, like it's doing its thing. What about outside of the show, trying to grow the podcast or the social side of things?
Yeah,
or
great question.
The external production stuff, or the business of the podcast. Where are your heads at on that?
I think we have put a lot of time into building social media. Views and reach have been something we keep a keen eye on, what's resonating, what's not, refining the real products we put out there as part of that. Not necessarily focusing on followers, because followers isn't necessarily where it is at anymore.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the thing. They talk about attention media. It's not necessarily social. So you could have 0 followers but get a lot of reach still if the content is interesting and engaging.
We were also very clear from the outset about building relationships in the industry and in the space. And
that's something Georgie's exceptional at.
Making sure that people knew that we're not just like a flash in the pan that we're going to go away. It's something that Libby and I identify with quite clearly as a passion. So we reached out to different people and said, hey, we're in this space. We'll be talking about it. We'd love to connect with you. And we've really spent a lot of the last 4 years making sure that we have these great relationships. And it's meant that, someone could introduce us to you, Nick, and say, hey, Nick's a great person. Come and talk to him and understand how you can work together. And it's also meant that when we had something to offer, we could help other people. And when other people were doing something and we wanted to connect with them, we could say, hey, we'd love your help in pushing this out.
Because, podcasting isn't necessarily super lucrative, but as you're probably sort of alluding to, we're trying to create a business around the podcast. So this is something else that Georgie and I talk about is our podcast is our business card. It puts us firmly in this space where we are talking about sport. We're passionate sports, journalists in for lack of a better word. And we're here wanting to talk about it. And we're specifically really passionate about kids sport, but all movement for all people and that lifelong love of sport. And how can we turn that into events and hopefully books eventually and maybe documentary? Like there is so many things that we want to create from this really strong foundation that we're built through the podcast.
Yeah, so I talk to people often about the podcast sort of being your base, which I think is what you put across. The other thing I want to chat to you guys about is the ASAPD program that you guys worked on and the Australian Sports Commission program, which is obviously really excellent organisations to work with.
Absolutely.
Who've come in, you've created a series for them. But what I would like to understand, firstly, what's it like working with organisations like that and lending your brand to it? And then how do you determine what you're going to talk about, what your audience wants to hear versus what they want to
Great
put out
question.
there?
Yeah. I think with the Australian Sporting Alliance for People with Disabilities, that's ASAPD, again, that was just something that came up by chance through relationship building. They were wanting to connect more and communicate more about disability sport opportunities for the community, and not just necessarily at an elite level, but also as administrators, as community participants. These were all really important conversations to have. I think for us, it was a great opportunity to get us into a studio. That was the first time we were able to
Work with you.
record in studio because it gave us a budget, and we sort of had reached out to you and understood what the cost structure was, and then came back to ASAPD and said, here's what we'd like to propose. And to be able to work, I think, with brands like that really align so clearly with our mission was just brilliant.
Yeah, incredible.
That's the sort of work we want to do. I think with ASAPD, so they didn't necessarily at that time have marketing support. So we had a pretty free rein about what that looked like, and we had guidance around the sort of guests they wanted us to talk to. But we sort of constructed what it needed to look like and went from there. And we're checking in throughout that process and made sure that the assets that they had at the end of it met the objectives they had set out.
Yeah, and then, moving into something like the Australian Sports Commission, which is obviously a huge national organisation, right? That's been a really interesting process because they've wanted more input into guests on the show, the messages that we're talking to with their play well strategy. I think we've created a really incredible product for both of those organisations, but talking more specifically to the Australian Sports Commission, I really am incredibly proud of that season. And that again really aligns with what we do, but we've been able to work with an incredible organisation to do that.
Yeah, I think when it came to the Australian Sports Commission, that was a much bigger brief, and we
took a lot longer to do.
Yeah, and we could
almost 8 months of negotiations
and recording and teamwork. I think a couple of things out of that. We recognised that we needed expertise that we didn't have in terms of production and in terms of how you make a really sophisticated podcast product. It wasn't
We're
just
super passionate about creating an incredible product.
Yeah, and we recognised that it couldn't just be Libby and I lobbing in and having a chat with somebody. This is the Australian Sports Commission. And through the process, I think Libby and I have learned a lot, and that just has flow-on effects in terms of how we elevate our weekly podcast of Sportish.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also has allowed us to stay in studio, which we hope we get to stay forever.
We're not leaving.
We live here now.
So the bit that I took away was working with those organisations has sort of become a business for you guys, and the fact that they align so directly is sort of the reason that it works. But they can't do it themselves because people don't want to listen to the Sport Commission podcast.
Yes,
but just because
they might.
They might, but
I disagree.
But I talk about this from a business to business podcast perspective. Is that people don't necessarily align with business, but they do align with people.
Yes, and
I think that's what you guys are putting out there.
Yeah,
and then you're sort of giving them access to this base of people that you've nurtured, and there is real value to that.
But we have to make sure that it really aligns with our audience as well. So there's a give and take that happens in that in that transaction. That will this resonate with the Sportish audience, and will the corporation or the organisation that we're working for get what they need? There has to be that sort of alignment that happens, and I think when it does, it's really exciting. But you have to be true to what you're all about.
Yeah, and I think that's, as well, just with generally putting out topics that we're talking about, we really try and, as much as possible, talk about things that interest us.
Yes. There's a level of authenticity.
Yes.
We have to be authentic.
Because otherwise it's boring, or
Absolutely.
it's not engaging, or you can just tell that it's just a bit off.
You tell that it's on the list versus what I'm excited to talk about.
100%. And also, it's our relationship that makes it work. We have to be able to see... I have to be able to see that light in Libby's eyes that this is really something she wants to talk. I can tell when it's not.
Yeah, she can tell.
I'm like, oh,
so boring.
But we have to be able to connect on the topic, and so we have to find organisations there has to be organisations that we really want to work with, and then find them and get to know them and be like, hey, we talk about this. Please come and work with us.
We
could help you.
We could totally help you.
But yes, I think to that end, it's hard. It's hard to build a podcast audience from scratch, and then if you're trying to communicate something that is slightly policy based, or product based, and not as interesting, that's a hard sell. So for Libby and I, we're this nice conduit where we say we can make this really personable.
Yeah.
We like talking about this stuff.
We love storytelling.
And our listeners are also interested in this.
Yes, because we know our listeners.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, is to understand the audience you're wanting to speak to. I think, we like to think that the person is mostly like us, although we do have some men who jump on board.
We do.
We're the Thinking Man's podcast.
The Thinking Man's Sport podcast.
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, all of the awesome women who listen to us.
The bulk of
which. But yeah, and sometimes when you're kind of niche like that, it does take a little while to get traction.
Yeah.
Which we've definitely felt that. We're like, does anyone actually want to engage with sport the way that we're engaging with it? But slowly but surely you find your people, and you get that trust, I guess, because even though video is such an important part of podcasting these days, it's still the way that I predominantly listen to it is by listening to it.
Yeah.
And I find it very personal to have someone in my ears, and I want someone that I trust and want to learn from.
That's actually a really another good point. It's when someone listens to your podcast,
they're investing.
It's a lot of time, right? Like they're spending a lot of time with you, and I think
Massive. It's a massive commitment
for brands. That's a big opportunity. So even though, a podcast might be smaller, that doesn't necessarily mean that the depth of the engagement is lesser.
There's a lot more value in a podcast listener than an Instagram view.
I totally agree.
Correct.
My last one is I'd like to understand where this show now fits in your personality. You obviously give a lot more of your personality away. You've become much more media savvy. How does your world's changed from a personality perspective? Where does the show fit?
Oh, interesting.
I mean, not really. I think
because we are who we are, it really hasn't changed us in any
I don't feel like I give
major
anything
way.
away. In fact, it feels like an outlet to have a conversation with Libby.
So the thing is that Georgie and I would call each other and talk about sport anyway. So when we don't have the opportunity to jump on the podcast to talk about all the things that have happened that we've seen that are interesting to us, then we're like, what's going on?
It becomes very frustrating.
Yeah. I think the thing that has changed for me, and I think probably for us, is that our view has gotten bigger than just the podcast. And we can see this being something that we do forever. And it's something that we wanted to do forever, which is, the point that I was going to make about pitching it, because I was like, I'm in it with you and I want to do this with you. And if you decide that you don't want to do this anymore, I'm still doing, this is what I'm doing.
That made me so mad. And I'm like, what do you mean? Of course I want to do this. Do you not want me to do
This
this?
is my idea too.
But those sort of tricky conversations were quite formational for us to have had. And this is Libby's ability to just go right to the guts of where things are at. I think that was so important to have those conversations up front, and for me to know, shit, if I don't just all in on this, Libby's going to do it anyway, and I don't want to miss out on that.
Yeah, and I think it's been really cool because it started as the podcast, but we just think there's so much opportunity now, and not to say that we think we're the best or anything.
God, no.
We are still learning. There's so much that we don't know. But we're willing to get in and have a crack and learn and grow and work with incredible people. And that's the stuff that makes me really excited.
Absolutely.
And on top of all of that, we still get to have these incredible conversations around the power of sport.
I think the thing that's probably changed the most for me is the responsibility I now feel.
She gets real worried about that. I don't.
Yeah, loosey-goosey over here.
It's going to be great. What are you talking about?
But the responsibility I feel because of some of the different things we will talk about. So when we're advocating for kids' sport, there is a responsibility there, and that's why we do want to make sure when we're talking about kids' sport, we're working with the right people. And we do that at a cost to us because we want to make sure that the product
is excellent.
I think similarly, as women in sports media, I feel a responsibility, and I feel it as people who talk about parents on the sideline as well. I coach kids sport. I'm always thinking about what's happening in kids sport and making sure we're amplifying those messages. And I do definitely feel the responsibility to make sure that we're nailing those things that are really quite important.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
I mean, you don't.
No,
but that's brilliant. I think that's
what I don't think.
No.
She doesn't think
No,
much.
No,
I think we live and breathe it.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, it hasn't changed, and we live and breathe it in different ways, in similar ways. And we feel equally passionate about trying to have a little bit of an impact on how sport is received by people, how people are interested in it, and how people engage with it.
Thank you very much for letting us into your conversations.
Oh, this has been fun.
Very welcome.
We love doing this stuff.
This is great.
Can we come back again?